Good morning, Zio here, and today we're having sort of a general discussion on housing and Shadowlands, World of Warcraft, if you can't figure that out. Anyway, it's World of Warcraft housing and how it can be done using examples from previously established versions of housing. So let's get into it, shall we? Now, as you probably know, Shadowlands is just over the horizon for World of Warcraft, the new expansion that kind of reminds me of Shadowbringers from Final Fantasy XIV. Huh, fancy that. Anyway, what WoW has failed to do, of course, over the years is implement any form of WoW housing, player housing. And I just wanted to discuss that today. So if you have any thoughts, feelings, that sort of thing, comment down below. Let's have a talk about it, I guess. But what we're seeing right now is the housing system for SWTOR, Star Wars The Old Republic, right? And we're going to be breaking down or talking about the systems that they have, Final Fantasy XIV has, and what WoW could implement in its place as well. Maybe sort of a combination of the two, or maybe its own system altogether, of course. But yeah, housing is something I would really love to come to the game. And before anybody says it, well, you got the garrisons, because that's what the Blizz devs love to say, and that failed miserably and everybody complained about it. Yeah, because garrisons aren't player freaking housing. You had very limited customizability on those, and yeah, you pretty much made it in such a way that nobody left the garrison, and that's not what we want. You know, players want a place where they can, customize a ton in it. They can express themselves, express, their sort of thing, have different themes up, whether it's a Halloween theme or a Christmas theme or just a general theme and stuff like that. And with housing, if done right or correct, you can really revitalize professions, which is another thing that WoW has lagged on, and apparently they're working on it with the new expansion, of course, Shadowlands. They're doing a lot when it comes to crafting, like crafting legendaries and other things, to try and bring crafting more focused or more into the forefront than it has been in the past. There's a few things in crafting that still are decently well, and they still do things like, for instance, enchants. They'll always be a thing for enchants, or at least the current enchantments, right? Bags, everybody's always going to want bigger bags. Goblin gliders, that sort of thing. And there's certain things that will always be, there's going to be somewhat of a market available for it, whether it's a mount like the Vials of the Sand, or one of the Panthers, or a pet like a mechanical chicken or squirrel or something like that. Housing could bring a lot more to crafting professions and make old crafting professions or old crafting expansions be more usable, or revitalize those areas, right? And you're probably asking yourself, Z, how do you do that? Well, we'll get into it when we talk about Final Fantasy XIV and their crafting system. But, you have various ways you can do this housing thing. And Star Wars The Old Republic, you purchase essentially like an apartment type thing or space. And then you have this area that you can go ahead and put things in that you have gathered. Everything is defined by different little squares or whatnot, so it's somewhat rigid in its placement. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do prefer the Final Fantasy way so much more, but this is still better than nothing, and everybody can have access to a place, right? Which I think is the biggest issue right there when it comes to this sort of thing, is having enough space for everyone. So what it is everything is instanced. Anyone who lives in this particular city has got their apartment. It's instanced. They can put things, they can put NPCs up, chairs, tables, statues, that sort of thing, and then they can hand out keys to other people. Or, you can have a guild, or their version of a guild, and have a stronghold for that guild where you show off of things you've gotten through achievements, among other things that people can come to and do stuff with. So it's active, and there are people always in it and that sort of thing, and they have a key to it, and you don't have just randos running in, which is a cool thing altogether. And I'm going to start hiccuping again. Dang it. Anyway. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, then you take the Final Fantasy version, right? You got Final Fantasy XIV, and these videos are going to be in the description. I don't know who they are. I just randomly typed in housing for so-and-so, for whatever game, click the first video that came up. So, I'm not trying to steal your content or anything, but your links are down below if people want to go check them out. But Final Fantasy XIV is a bit different, right? They have districts in a lot of the cities, so no matter where you're at, there's a district, and then the district is instanced into like 15 or 18 or 20 some different things, right? And each one has plots of houses. They've got several different sizes: small, medium, and large. And you have to, it's kind of a race. Right now, Final Fantasy XIV has always, or for a long time, has always had a housing crisis, and they recently released a new housing area to try and eliminate some of that, but I don't know if they were successful because I haven't played the game recently. I don't think they have been, because the player base is pretty large, there's still going to be a housing crisis when you have limited availability to housing. Now, how they handle it, of course, is if you don't log into the game for a certain amount of time, like I think a few months or something or whatnot, and if you had a house, it automatically is put back on the market and you lose access to that house. I don't like that, especially if you dump a bunch of gil into said house to then suddenly lose it because there's only a limited amount of space and everybody wants one. But at the same time, they have apartments, which are really small rooms that anybody can have access to, and that there's, I guess, kind of an unlimited amount. The other issue they also run into is the same space that is used for housing for the players is also used for their guild housing, essentially, right? So, they are fighting over guilds who want housing for, a place for their guild to meet in, and they are fighting over the normal player base, which I think they should definitely separate the two, right? They should have sort of guild areas, a guild instance area, like zones 28 through 35 or something, or specifically guild things, so a guild master has to purchase it, or somebody who has the ability to do so in the guild would have to then purchase the plot, and then it would keep it separate from the normal player base. And these areas are places that you can run around into. You can go visit other houses, that sort of thing, which is a cool concept. It's just the whole issue of limited availability. I think WoW really should sort of maybe have sort of an instance thing. Maybe if they do want to do districts, that would be cool, but also have enough districts to handle, the entire player base, I guess. I don't think that's going to be a thing that can be done, so it would have to be more of the Star Wars, the Old Republic version, where they have to... I don't remember where I was. I had to go break up the kids. Anyway, but no. Maybe sort of an instant thing, everybody gets one. Maybe some themes would go great. So if you buy your housing in Undercity or something that's got sort of an Undercity outside theme or whatnot, you can do what you want on the inside. Or if it's in Thunder Bluff, it's sort of, they got that plateau theme off to the side, and then you can put things in it kind of like this. With Final Fantasy XIV, if you can see, it's a lot different from the Star Wars one, where you've got little squares or whatnot and things that you have to be more rigid with. You can put things in things and do some interesting things. This video itself is a break it down rounded bay window for housing, to give your housing a rounded bay window, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, because it doesn't naturally have that in a thing, and you combine different assets together to do things. Now, with housing, of course, it can, like I was saying, it could revitalize professions. In Final Fantasy XIV, they have professions, right? Just like WoW. And they're their own classes. And there's, groups of dedicated people who just craft. That's what they want to do. That's how they do their game and enjoy things, is through crafting. And there's a lot of crafting recipes, where... you build things for houses, whether it's a fireplace, a stool, a table, among other things, which of course gives professions the ability to continue being profitable even outside of an expansion. So, for instance, if we translated this into World of Warcraft, you have the Lich King, right? Let's throw this on loop. You get the Lich King, right? Wrath of the Lich King, that expansion, and then that expansion comes with it a theme of different things that can be built. So you've got your metalworking type professions like armor or weapons, whatever and stuff, and they can build more metallic things. Maybe they build sort of like some kind of lamppost that's made of metal, or a small wall that is made of metal, metal cooking stuff, things like that, and they all can make these things, right? And then of course they can be sold on the auction house for money and such, for gold, and players can buy it and they can deck out their houses with it because, maybe they wanted, this metal cauldron over a fireplace or whatnot. So they get a hold of, somebody makes the fireplace, and then, one of the professions make the fireplace. They buy a fireplace, and maybe this fireplace is sort of Lich King themed or something, or themed from one of the factions in Lich King. All right, maybe it's an ICC fireplace that dropped from, one of the bosses from ICC, that sort of thing. Maybe a miniature dark portal or something when you're dealing with expansions that dealt with going through the portal, like Warlords of Draenor, or the Burning Crusade. And so you get like a small miniature dark portal to put up into your house that somebody makes, or a fell portal or something to that nature. Maybe you want curtains, and you got to get a hold of a tailorer or somebody who knows how to make these particular themed curtains and rugs and other things. And I think that would really help revitalize professions, and always give a profession, regardless of which expansion we are in, something to do, right? And it would just go on and just add to it. And it's not like you have to add it in some major content patch. It's just somebody comes up with this idea, goes, oh, hey, we could make these new rugs and make them look like this, and they've got this Akoa design to it or whatnot. Let's add it in the next, half patch or something, like 9.1.5 or something. 9.1 point. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? It doesn't have to come out in a major content patch where they release a new raid and all this other stuff, and then all this stuff has to drop in with it. It can be fed in incrementally, little by little, and then everybody's like, ooh, it'd be really cool to get the new fireplace, or the new walls, or the new lighting and stuff like that. And then of course, you can have theme stuff for the holidays, which of course gives a whole wealth of other things to actually shoot for. What if you have everything that Hollow End already offers, right? And you go for the one at new little toy or something they've added to it, or maybe they added a new pet or whatnot, but then you're done within a couple of days because you've already got it. You've got nothing else to do. You don't need to farm the Headless Horseman mount or anything like that. Like in my case, you don't have to do any of that because you've already got everything that holiday has to offer. But this time it comes out with some themed things. Maybe cooking of all things can make some kind of jack-o'-lanterns for your house that you can go put up. And then of course, you can offer, say, keys or something to these houses, or something, or just make them to where anyone can come in, or you can private them. So if they're on your friends list, they could go to your house and check it out, that sort of thing. Of course, if they were to use the district thing, that would work a little different, because then anyone who's in that district could go into it. But then that runs into the fact, the whole idea of there's not enough player housing around for everybody to have. But yeah, you've got all these things that can combine and come into the system, and we started small. Of course, we're not expecting something huge. You just sort of put in a few things. Maybe they work on an Overmire and a Stormwind, housing thing, and then you can dump some gold into it, purchase your house, and then start doing some achievements or hunting down some things that only drop from bosses, or get onto the AH and hunt down some stuff that people are now hunting reagents. Anyway, hunting mats down to actually build and sell on the auction house, which of course also gives a completely new gold sink into the game for people to do. And when it comes to, say, Final Fantasy XIV, they say the end game is all about glamour, and it is. And housing, if you are fortunate enough to buy a house, because you can customize these things. You can customize the outsides, you can customize the insides, like we're seeing right here. My guild has did have a mansion on the server I was playing on. Yeah, I went ahead and I found another video that's going to be down there. But, this is talking about how to buy and find a house, version 2, apparently. But, they've got all these different districts, different themes and everything, which are really cool and really awesome to look at. You can run around. Players aren't always just in there. And there's other things that can be done, too. Like, my guild had these things set up where they kind of boosted different things when it came to crafting, right? So if you're leveling your crafting or whatnot, from like level 1 to 60 or whatnot, or whatever the level cap was, all the way up to like 10 levels before the level cap, because the way they do their jobs isn't like how we do ours, right? So, you may go look at one of the professions and you need to get 75 skill points or whatever into it to max it out, that sort of thing. And, and in order to, do that, you've got to craft like a bunch of enchantments or whatnot to build it up, that sort of thing. In this game, you still craft a bunch to build up your level, but your level is like your character level. So if you're at max level 60 and you want it to be a carpenter, you then start at level 1 and have to make that crafting class to level 60, and it's a completely different leveling system altogether. So it's its own character with its own boost, with its own things, and that's how those crafting things worked, is like between levels 1 and 50 or whatever, you'll gain a plus X% in experience when crafting these things. When you click on it, and it's like an hour-long buff or something, or a 30-minute buff, and you just go to the guild house, click it, and start making your things and stuff while you're there. And you can add some NPCs that sell random things, like, for instance, kind of like the NPCs on the Traveler Mammoth and stuff like that, the Transmog Mammoth, things that you could put in the house for convenience. You may not really need somebody who sells you salt or can repair your armor or whatnot, but right as it is, you just summon your mount if you got it, and there you go. You've got a person who will sell you some, mats or whatever to do your cooking, and really basic mats at that. So WoW doesn't have to implement something huge into it where it's going to be selling you, like large quantities of higher quality mats or anything, just to have a flavorful NPC. And of course, you can also, sort of determine what your NPCs look like too, which is an interesting thing in its own self. So if you wanted to walk into your mansion and be greeted by a bunch of maids who are, night elves or something, you could do that, right? But yeah, this here is just showing the plots. You've got 1 through 30 plots, and then 31 through 60 where they segregate them in groups of 30. And you can see here where it tells you what kind of plot it is. So S for small, medium for medium is an M, L for a large, and then who owns it, right? Like, this is owned by characters, while this is a actual guild or free company, if I remember correctly, as they're called. who actually owns that particular plot and what it is. And of course there's other information here, like is it used for role play like RP, or is it used for glamour, screenshots, that sort of thing? Is it open to the public for anybody to come and use it? Is it more of a diner like thing where you go in, which is more of an RP element, which is another thing that actually comes into play too, is the expansion on RP that it can give players. If you like to role play, this is a great thing, especially if you've got, say, a large guild hall and everybody's got their own rooms, and somebody sets up their room to be like, it's the guild master's room where he's got this large desk and mountains of gold in the corners or whatnot to sort of show off the guild's wealth, that sort of thing, and you go there to conversate with the guild master or whatnot because you've got something, or they've got another room that is just a giant round table for the officers where they discuss and talk about their next things. And over here, of course, are the wards. With this video, there was 21 wards at the time, which is 21 plots of essentially 1 through 30 and 31 through 60. That's a lot of plots, but it's still not enough to cover the entire player base, which is why they have a housing crisis, which on one hand I do kind of like, the idea of having these things that you can go into and actually look around. As you can see on the map over here, you've got all these different little houses floating about that you can go in and enter and interact with, right, where other people have played. I like that idea. But at the same time, is there really enough server space or anything else to actually accommodate a thing for every single player to have their own specific house? Might be an impossible task, which is why, probably for WoW, the instant version of just one house in one location is the thing to go. Unfortunately, but I do really love this thing here, the way this is set up. And, it's just bad that there's a housing crisis where not enough players are actually able to do it. And then of course the price varies depending on what it is that you're trying to get. But housing, I think, would be an amazing thing to actually add into the game, to take the time to actually do. It's a thing that, one, they don't have to redo every expansion, right? It's good. It would be a permanent thing that they add to. It's not something they've got to rebalance, retool, refix, like, say, for instance, a lot of our borrowed power type things, where we've got Azerite traits that are no longer going to work, corruption that's never going to work again, our artifact weapons that are never going to work again, and things like that. They don't have to worry about that with housing. But at the same time, housing would give us a place to display those too. That's another thing. Like, for instance, artifact weapons no longer work, but what if you took the time to build that artifact weapon, or all your weapons? Maybe you're a druid who has four artifact weapons, and you took the time to just do all of them, right? But now they just sit in a bank because you've got nothing to do with it, or your void storage because you don't want to get rid of it because maybe you're sentimental about it, and it just sits there, right? Not doing anything. What if now you can take it and display it at your house? Like, I took the time to get this particular thing with this particular appearance, and you've hung it up on a mantle on a wall somewhere for people to display and look at. Or maybe at the guild, everybody at the guild takes the moment to display their stuff across the wall, and maybe their armor sets or something like that, because that's the thing that you can do in Final Fantasy XIV, is have mannequins to display armor sets. Maybe you want to display the fact that your guildies all got AQ40, the entire set of armor for each class, and each person came in and set up their mannequin with what their transmog of that set or whatnot, and to be displayed at the guild. And maybe the guild has their hall of whatevers for people to go in and look at, and you can look at their hall of achievements where they've got all the armor sets for AQ40 displayed, or they've got a picture or something on the wall of the destruction of Deathwing because they raided and beat Deathwing, and things like that. That would be an awesome thing to do, and it would also give things that no longer have any use still some kind of use, and combining it with transmog mannequins and other things to be displayed, and not just be something worthless in your bag, a thing that you can look at and show off. Anyway, I think I rambled on long enough, so let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.